Right? So that is something that he says. But please remember, of course, there are certain qualities which are inborn for one to produce the work of sublime. He says that the sublime is born in a man and not to be acquired by instruction. Genius is the only master who can teach it. The vigorous products of nature are weakened and in every respect debased when robbed of their flesh and blood by frigid technicalities. This is something that he says. He says, if you're naturally endowed to become a writer, if you're naturally endowed to write, technical rules will make it bad. Technical rules will not really let you shine. How can I forget? The other day I gone. So usually I think I watch a lot of these cable movies when I'm traveling because when you're in a hotel, you actually have that set-top box installed. Otherwise, I think we've all forgotten set-top boxes now, right? At home, we are mostly on the OTT platform. So I was watching this South Indian film because obviously on TV, either have Time Patrol coming or you have a South Indian film which is shown, right? So that was of course dubbed in Hindi. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to understand it at all. So in that South Indian film, there was a cricket very similar to Chak De India. I don't know if Chak De India was actually based on that story or the movie. So this coach wants to build a team and he wants to get the team back. So the team, one of the players is having a style, and the technical coach before the coach has already told her, no, don't follow this style, don't follow this style. So when the new coach comes in, he's like, why are you not performing? And he's been told that the original style that player was using had been told not to use because that was very very crude, debased. So this is exactly what Longinus says. So Longinus says that if you will follow technicalities, you'll never be able to shine. You'll never be able to create that sort of a work. So frigid technicalities is something that he's really wanting everybody to have a distance from. And this is the reason why he's called the first romantic critic. So there is a question also that comes in literary criticism exams: justify Longinus as a romantic critic. He's a romantic critic for this reason. He doesn't like these technicalities at all. Right? So he's detesting this line. Let me show you the line. So there is a complete, there is a complete detesting of restraint. He's not happy with the restraint part at all. He wants everybody to be as natural as possible. That is vital to the creation of a work of literature. If you will pack your ideas in technicalities, like for instance, imagine if I tell you, study in the morning from 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. and probably you're nocturnal, probably you fall asleep by 4 or 5 in the morning. So then that will not work for you at all. You need to understand what working style or what kind of a study style suits you altogether. Okay, but otherwise, what have we been able to see? We've been able to see Aristotle. We'll talk about this tomorrow. So Aristotle is talking about scientific approach, about rules, which is also important by the way. Remember that Matthew Arnold, Aristotle, what are they doing? These people are getting objectivity, which is also required because otherwise literature will not. Imagine your net exam would not have been possible if objectivity was not there. 12 years ago or approximately 11 and a half years ago, the paper 2 was actually a subjective paper and it was so difficult to check that paper. And that is the reason the results would come out after stages literally after. So the results, here what used to happen if you ask your seniors or if you ask your parents or who have given the exam. So for instance, the next net will come just 1 week before that next net will the result be coming out. It used to be such a lengthy process. So that is what we are able to see that certain things are good. Your net exam is not possible because of objectivity. So rules are also important. Getting literature within the objective realm is also important. That is something that Aristotle was doing. Getting a very scientific approach. But this sort of a detachment is not there. This sort of a detachment is not there when we are talking about Longinus. Because for him, great passions are rash impulses. Right? Great. So please remember that great ideas or great passions are actually blind. These are rash impulses. These are rash impulses. They are not controlled by reason. Sometimes you just want to bunk your office and just probably meet your grandparents and just make them happy. So technically, it might not make any sense per se that oh my god, you bunked your work and you've gone and made a visit to your grandparents. But perhaps emotionally, it might be something which is like so it's filling with a lot of emotions, making you very happy from within. So great passions will always and always be very rash. Right? So that is something that you're able to look at. That is something that you're able to see over here that comes in a very big way. That learning has to literally abandon restraint. Okay. Also, let me just tell you, I always say this whenever we are doing Roman classical criticism. Something that all of you should remember for your net preparation is this: that of course genius is important. Please remember this. Please keep this in mind. Of course, genius. And what is genius in your case? Genius in your case can be you've done a bachelor's and masters from a very good college, or you've got a very good support system, say BHU or DU or Jamia or JNU, etc. Right? That can be genius. Right? That can be genius, but that will not ensure success in that exam. You need to be well aware. You have to be systematic. You have to be scientific. Also, you need to be very consistent. You need to be so if you see the theorems of net is actually an amalgamation. Whatever you study at college, along with that, a few other questions also, and if you put that together, you'll be able to clear the exam. So this is true for your net examination as well, and genius can also be built in, of course, right? So Longinus looks at genius. It's not that he's not looking at genius at all. He is of course looking at genius. This is an inborn quality. But at the same time, what you're able to see, it's like good fortune for Longinus. This question has come. Genius is like good fortune. It's like a blessing. But if a child is born into a good family but doesn't get good counsel, that is also not going to be of any good at all. So he says that genius is like good fortune. It's a blessing, but good counsel is also required. Good support is also required. Good direction is also required. Right? That is something that he is trying to discuss. Second part, so this is the conclusion of the first part, that what is sublime, how it's made up of inborn qualities, how restraint is not a good thing at all. It has to be rash impulses. I hope that is clear to everybody. Then towards the second part also, he says the same thing that that I really have to tell you this, that there are certain critics, but at the end of the day, a work of art is not that something which is like a really good story. For instance, a film that does very well, or a book that does very well, or a web series nowadays does very well. You cannot just make a catalog that okay, this was there, that was there, this was there, that was there. Overall, if you see whether it created an impact, that is something which is important. Right? That is something which is really critically important. Language also, of course, he talks about language. He discusses that what kind of language has to be used, what kind of language cannot be used to get that sublime effect. He discusses that, by the way, for language also. He discusses what kind of language we have to use. Some expressions, images, which produce an effect of confusion, obscurity, not of energy, examined under the light of criticism. Right? So basically, he says that you need to be very picky and choosy about creating a work. See, what is he trying to say? He says if you're talking about tragedy, and if in tragedy you have used wrong jargon, semantically it will not look good. You have to use appropriate set of words altogether. You will have to use that. You cannot use happy words in a tragedy all the time. Or if you're using it, has to be very carefully put across because that meaning has to come across. So always remember that he is trying to tell you, he is trying to discuss that nothing is, there's a very famous line over here, nothing is poetry unless it transports. Nothing is poetry unless it transports. Elevation, loftiness is the distinction marker. That is something which will set you apart. So to just paraphrase the idea and move on to Horace, what is Longinus saying? Does anyone wants to capture that before I present the solution? What is he finally saying? Does anyone wants to give it a try, give it a shot? What is Longinus saying? Okay, Shreya, sure. There's a girl who's got a farmer father. Is that what you're talking about? It was a good movie though. Right. Very good. Priya, Gaurav, Nargis, Kshitij, everybody put together. Everybody put together. Anamika, very nice. So basically, what is he saying? He's talking about. If you've not paid attention, that's why pay attention right now. He says sublime is something that can transport you. It's lofty and it can transport you. And there is excellence of language. It is in the image of the greatness of mind. It's not petty. It's the greatest image that you're having in your mind. It's in that image. The best companies that we're able to see, and Apple and Amazon, they're all sublime creations. They're like the highest state of mind, or like even the unicorn that we were talking about, like even Byju's for that matter, right? So the image of greatness of mind. It always will help us transport, and that is something. The lightning flash. That is also equally important. Sublimity is not innate; it can be acquired, but there are certain innate features as well. Right? There are certain innate features as well. No restraint at all. There are 5, and this question comes in your exam. There are 5 sources of sublimity. Grandeur of thought. grandeur of thought. That is very important. You also need to have a proper treatment of passions. You have to employ appropriate words. Pick the correct words altogether. Dignified expression has to be there. Dignified expression, appropriate words put semantically together. The proper arrangement also has to be there, and majesty and elevation of structure. So all of these together, grandeur of thought, treatment of passions, along with that, employing proper figures of speech, proper thought processes, using dignified expression and majesty and elevation of structures is something which is required. Always remember that. However, there are certain things that have to be avoided. This question has also come frigidity, completely away from frigidity. Frigidity, false sentiment. If you do not feel it, never write it. Even for that matter, even right now, if you see some of the biggest content creators across all platforms, people are hit because they actually do not have any false sentiment. They are trying to convey whatever they are. The more fake you are, I think it wouldn't click with the audiences, right? You would come to know. So what are you able to see that false sentiment is not supposed to be there? Puerility, bombast. All of these are negative character traits. Bombast has to be completely made sure that you're moving away from it. You're not supposed to be with it at all because the more you're going to be bloating yourself and you'll be kiddish. You'll be juvenile. So remember as kids, my dad yesterday went to San Francisco and he bought me, he bought me this pencil. Perhaps your dad just bought it from the neat book depot which is around your bookstore, your so-called place altogether. But as kids we used to do that, right? Remember? So I'm sure purity is childishness, juvenile attitude altogether. As kids, remember we used to boast around. So when it's like, yes, ma'am, okay. I never did that, but I remember my brother doing that multiple times with his bunch of friends, right? And how would I come to know because we were in the same bus and then people would come back to me and ask me, and I was like, okay, even my dad wouldn't be knowing that he's gone to these places. So that is purity. As kids, we are wanting to do that, right? So it's like one of my classmates did that, getting crayons from just the park nearby and then telling, these crayons are from Belgium. These are like non-breakable crayons or something like that. So what is that? That's puerility. So bombast, puerility, false sentiment, frigidity. These are absolutely a sin in the creation altogether. Okay, this is a letter that is written to the friend. Please remember that. And a lot of discussion has been taking place about it for a very long period of time. He is considered to be, always remember that Scott James. There is Scott James, the critic. You can write this thing down also. Scott James considers him to be the first romantic critic. Alright, whereas Atkins calls him a great classical critic. Atkins is calling him a great classical critic. Let me just tell you that also. So Scott James is calling him. Let me use a different colored pencil. Is calling him the first romantic. No restraint, freedom of expression, write what you're feeling, no false sentiment. Right? That is the reason first romantic critic. And Atkins calls him a classical critic because he's also telling you appropriate use of words for things that you want to say. So that is a classical critic who's prescribing also. Right, so he's romantic by not telling you it to be mechanical, but he's also taking classical inspiration. He's a classical writer as well. So that is something that you will have to keep in mind. Now coming very quickly to another important critic, and that is Horace. All right, that is Horace. Coming on to Horace, I book Sublime on the Sublime, Longinus on the Sublime is clear to everybody. The important bits and pieces that we did.